Invincible season 1, the finale.
Fuck yeah.
The finale came out yesterday. I watched it last night. I watched it like 2 times again today. I absolutely loved the finale. But before we talk about the episode itself, Knox, I want to start with you. What are your general thoughts on Invincible season 1?
Dude. Invincible season 1 felt like a masterpiece to me. And I haven't read Invincible for real since it was like running, naturally, right? So like 2000 and whatever the fuck that was, early as shit, like 10, 15 years ago or whatever. And what I appreciated about the show is that like it reminded me how good of a story it was that I haven't read this comic book for like almost literal decades, plural. And the show reminded me of like my comic book reading experience of Invincible through the differences that I noticed, and that like anyone who's read the comic book would notice in the show. But as a first season, I think this is history in the making, dude. I think that this is I don't know. I thought I saw some kind of like crazy stat that like 1 billion people were watching this weekly, and it's like I don't know if that's real or whatever. I've been saying it like it's factual, like in group chats and shit or whatever the fuck I've been saying, but I don't know if that's actually a thing. But I don't doubt it. You know what I mean? Like this is something that I haven't seen like a hype wave for to this extent for Western media in like a really long time. And I think that this is easily the biggest Western cartoon in the last like 50, 30, 40, like whatever large amount of time you want to say. It's a drastic situation that we have right now. And I feel like it's actually really revolutionary because when you see what you can do inside of this medium with these stories, I feel like a lot of, animated universe stuff kind of takes established concepts from comic books and does like a pseudo Hollywood situation where they go, okay, we're going to pay more attention to this lore than the movies do, but we're still going to take liberties in this area. Whereas with Invincible, you could tell that Kirkman was right there going, okay, this is different and this is different, but it's different because I think that these are actual improvements to my original story rather than I'm a big shot Hollywood executive that thinks things should be done differently because I'm Hollywood. You know what I mean? So like, I appreciate the changes that were made inside of Invincible in that regard because Kirkman is a legitimate genius in my opinion. And I know that he had super intense creative oversight over this. And there are a lot of drastic differences from the comic to the show, even inside of this first season that I'm sure we'll talk about. But like as a first season of anything, just in a vacuum, I think that this is one of the most brilliant first seasons of anything Western that I've seen in my entire life.
Facts, bro.
Beautiful and well said.
Yeah, Steve.
I don't know how to follow that, but
you got this.
It was fire. It was fire. I'm a reader as well, so I've read it. So watching it, I was just like on the edge of my seat still because of the certain different. The order of events were kind of different than how they played out in the story of the comic or whatever. It's actually done really, really well. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like they took their own way and route about it and messed up the story at all. It just was done really, really well. They built on the characters very well. It's instead of a 30-minute show, we were getting a 45 to an hour episode, so they got to flesh out the characters. That's something that we haven't seen, I don't think, in any cartoon type
This is different.
It just gave us so much, man, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was really good.
Yeah, man. Vash?
As season 1 overall thoughts, for most of those fans and people that watch, people know me from anime podcasts and everything, and for those that may not know, I started with comic books first before anime and manga. I was a cartoon and comic book fan. Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and everything. I grew up with reading those comics when I was a kid. But with years going by and becoming an athlete and girls, I get distracted, and I got behind on my comic books and cartoons. So I just got dive into anime and manga. And I really want to get back into it. That's why I appreciate always talking to Knox, because he gives me the passion to get back into my comic book series, which slowly I am. And this series really flew under the radar for me, because finding out that it was literally like 2010, 2011 came out, and knowing that like 10 years later, knowing this adaptation so good, and knowing that
2005.
it makes me want to read. Oh,
I just wanna put
2005.
that out there. I think
appreciate that.
Invincible
Thank you.
started in 2005. Yeah.
So to know how great it is and to know that's fucking 3,000 plus pages, that's fucking wild. That's freaking amazing. And I can't wait to read that. Who knows how long that's going to take me. But
It's a journey, G. Promise you.
And it's worth it.
I can't imagine how of a
Season
journey that
2 and
is.
season 3 are gonna shit on season 1, by the way.
Oh,
Which
I
is
can't
nuts to
imagine
think
for that.
about.
And that's great. That's props for that when the series gets better. But to get that backstory of how comic book is, I love season 1. To know the story of the difference of me reviewing anime week to week in manga, knowing that Mark did not get this MC type of route where he's gonna somehow beat up his father actually because of an anime or MC protagonist type of story. Like,
No, it's
I
a
thought-
Western thing too. You see a lot of that in the West.
Oh, yeah,
too.
Western
like, it's not
it is,
just
but-
like I know
oh,
you
yeah,
want to
of
like
course.
automatically jump to like Dragon Ball and Fairy Tail.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Deus Ex Machina
But
type.
more
things.
like that. It's
Yeah.
it's rare to see that in overall type of medium.
Yeah.
Or more should I say? And I was very happy to see that because you barely see that in a lot of written and visual medium. So to see that Mark guy's ass whoop literally so much, where I was like, damn. And literally, we're gonna talk about episode 8 exclusively about a train scene. Yo, that's like my face was openly gone. I was like. My
I was
face,
not
like
ready,
me right
dude.
now, I was speechless. I was speechless. Like, my dude was literally murdering bodies left and right, like literally bodies hitting to the floor. So to see how season 1 wrap up, it made me want to read it. Like, where I had to tell James, where we are on our own podcast, once James sees something hype, he goes straight to read it. I literally had to tell him as a fun torture thing for me, for my amusement more than anything.
I'll never do
and
that
Ray
again.
amusement as well. I literally had to tell him on air, like, yo, James, we just watched season 1, watch episode 1. You can't read it until the season ends. My dude was tortured, which was amusement as hell. I love the show. Can't wait to see season 2 and 3. And they knew to greenlit 2 seasons because they knew everyone talking about it every Friday. They even have a hashtag Invincible Friday, knowing how people love to watch and talk about the show. I did not enjoy The Boys. I saw the first 3 episodes, but knowing that
You
this
didn't
series,
enjoy The Boys show?
yeah, I watched the first 3 episodes. It didn't hook me, and maybe knowing this work of his, maybe I could actually enjoy it more this time around. So
Yeah.
maybe I could rewatch in the future. But I definitely had a good time with season 1. I had a blast. The characters, the ass whooping, the animation, the character, the voice acting, the dub was fantastic. J.K. Simmons did an amazing job to
Thanks.
represent Omni-Man and everything. So I had a great time for
Absolutely.
it.
I wanna jump in here, James. I know you're about to get in your bag.
Yeah, do your thing.
But I just want to say this because it's something that Vash said. When it comes to like The Boys versus Invincible, I think one of the most important things that Invincible does as a deconstruction, as a raw deconstruction of superhero storytelling, the same way that The Boys is that The Boys establishes very, very early on that this is supposed to be like what you've experienced before, but you know that it's wildly different than anything you've experienced before right away. Now, in Invincible, there are a lot of people, and even people that I know specifically, who said, hey, I couldn't get through the first episode. Why couldn't you get through the first episode? Because you think it's just another DC animated film that you historically have not been able to get into before because of a multitude of different reasons, whatever, the aesthetic, the storytelling approach, the fact that you don't have all of the history of these characters, whatever. But like Invincible very much starts off trying to lead you down a certain sense of security inside of the storytelling. Like, you've seen this before, right? The Boys does not do that at all. You see how The Boys is a deconstruction right away, instantly. And like the first scene in the comic book and the movie shows you that this is not the kind of superhero situation that you're used to. And what I appreciate inside of Invincible, especially in the difference between the comic book and the show, is that in the show, Omni-Man kills the Guardians of the Globe at the end of the first episode. It's not that quick in the comic book. This was a decision that Kirkman made for a reason, because he thought that it would be a more compelling way to introduce you to the themes of the story.
And impactful, because
And
I
he
thought it was a
right.
great choice.
He was right. He was absolutely right, and that was a brilliant decision. But like Invincible, for the first 35 minutes of that first episode, tries to show you that it's a regular superhero cartoon. The Boys doesn't do that.
Yep.
So The Boys right away shows you, no, you want to stay here. Trust me. You know what I mean? And that's just a major difference that I had to point out in that regard.
I would definitely keep the rewatch event in me just to talk about it and maybe review in the future the first season, anything like that.
Yeah.
That's something
I'm
that
about
we
to say
can discuss.
Everything's over now, so y'all might as well go on and do week-to-week boys discussions.
Yeah.
Definitely Knox come back too, because Knox, you're definitely also
Yeah.
watching, so definitely that could be a
I'll
good
let you
discussion to have.
koala.
I read The Boys, and it's completely different. That the actual live action is way better, and it gets out of all that edgy sex shit that they got going. I don't know what they're trying
Garth
to do.
Ennis was doing too much.
Yeah, he was doing a lot.
Too much like
heard about
arbitrary
that.
bigotry.
Yeah.
For me.
I
That's
did hear about
why
the
I
comic.
slander the Boys comic book. You know what I mean? Because like when you look at what they're doing in the show, you're like, okay, this gets the exact same message across, but we don't need Homelander calling everybody on the plane the N-word for no reason.
Right.
Like we have in the comic books. You know what I mean? That plane scene,
Oh.
look at the plane scene in the comic books versus the plane scene in the show, literally do a side-by-side and you'll be like, why did you do this?
Just for no reason.
Like you'll literally be like, why was this even a thing? Yeah. There's a lot of moments like that in The Boys from the show to the comic book that I've noticed even in the first season.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? In the fucking comic book, Starlight fucking hooks up with Homelander in the comic book, not the Deep.
All three of them. Remember?
Oh shit!
All three. The whole team makes her. Yeah.
But originally it's Homelander at first. So like that exact same scene that you see with the Deep and Starlight in the show, that's just Homelander that time in the comic book. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a lot of differences in that makes it a lot different when Homelander's the one, because the Deep is acting a fool in the show, and you're like, well, Homelander's the fucking shining light of this then. I mean, everyone sucks, but at least Homelander's good, right? You know what I mean? But in the comic book, they're like, nope, Homelander sucks instantly. So it's differences like that. I don't know how we're talking about the Boys right now. I'm sorry. Let's get back to
No, you're good. You're good because it was about the parallels, right? Between these types of shows that subvert your expectations of what superhero shows usually are, and that's what I really liked about Invincible. Like you brought up, Knox, like the beginning, the first like 35 minutes of Invincible, it feels like a very basic superhero show, and that's kind of what I expected, right? I expected it to be good. On like, because I think Young Justice, like the first 2 seasons are amazing, so I expected something on top of that, like that level, right? And then you get to the end of the first episode, and I'm like, holy fucking shit, what happened here? Because in the very beginning, the Guardians of the Globe are very Justice League-esque, right?
Yes.
They're very Justice League. Even my girlfriend made a comment about that. It's like, these guys are just like a different version of the Justice League, and we didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into until we dive deeper and deeper. And then Omni-Man just shows up and just fucking murders the Guardians of the Globe in the most fucked up way possible. So that was a great ending, because the moment that ended, I bought all 3 compendiums on fucking iBooks. Because that was such an amazing ending to that first episode. I'm like, well, where the fuck does it go from here? And
that's
then we
what
get
everyone says. Whenever I show them the first episode of Invincible, I'm like looking for a certain reaction, like, oh my god, he murdered those guys, he splattered their brains, he did. But the first thing that anyone says after that episode ends is, I need to know why he did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's crazy that despite everything that happens in that scene, the first thing that everyone says is, why? That's storytelling, dude. Like, there's a whole bunch of meathead, crazy gore and choreography to talk about. But the story has you going, now, why the fuck did this motherfucker do this? You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's amazing to me.
And then you get the second episode, and then we start to get the little Easter eggs that there's something quite not right with Robot. So I'm like, well, shit, again. Like, in the first episode, it was like, what the fuck is Omni-Man doing? And then the second episode, it's like, well, what the fuck is Robot doing? And there's just so many different things going on. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is why this was so popular. This takes all of your expectations, flips them on its head, and is like, no, fuck you. This is not your granddad's like Justice League comic. Like, this is something completely different, and it blew me away,
It's not just
bro.
a bunch of deconstructive subversions. It's
Right.
actual amazing storytelling and
Yes.
linear plot progression and composition, while it's also subverting all of those expectations. And that's what's really impressive about Invincible, because in the West especially, where motherfuckers are notoriously known for cutting as many corners as they can because the industry forces deadlines on people and set, you know, ridiculous expectations in a lot of areas that we could talk about probably in a separate discussion. But for right now, in a medium that is historically known for like putting the foot of editors on the neck of creatives and going, hey, it's really easy for you to just write a deconstruction in ways that are just like very obviously subverting these expectations in these areas, and having the storytelling, you can maybe cut corners on that and have it be light because no one's experienced a story like this before. But Kirkman and his creative team were like, okay, I'm going to write this story in that way, but it's also going to be compelling throughout in every other way that you can criticize as well. And like that kind of like effort is something that like feels rare in the West because of, you know, editorial restrictions inside of the big two publication lines. And that's why we need to respect and appreciate publication lines like Image for allowing writers that come from the oppression of those big two lines to really branch out and let their hair down and show you what they were really cooking behind the scenes while they were writing everything Jim Shooter told them to write about Spider-Man at the time or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? It feels really good when you see them break out of that shell that you know that they were, or break out of that cage that you know that they were in DC and Marvel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Steve, I kind of want to start with you. What was one thing that happened in this first season that was different from the comic that actually surprised you and that you maybe thought was a better decision than the comic? And if it wasn't a better decision, tell me why.
One thing that I did think, like, I mean, for episode 1, we like that doesn't happen until I think like until like
end of the volume.
Yeah, end of the volume.
Or
like
some shit. Yeah. It's far away.
We get to see the Guardians. You see the Guardians for a while.
What?
They
dude. Yeah.
So we actually see the Guardians as heroes for a while. Instead of
you get to chill with them for a while, dude.
And what surprised me was as soon as the credits went up for the first episode and that first phone call rings, I said, right now? I literally said, right now? I was like, this. Like, so then once that second phone call happened, I was like, oh, okay, this is happening right fucking now. And I was still shocked because it was just like, I couldn't believe that it was going to happen this early. And I thought like it, because I mean, I like Robert Kirkland's Walking Dead comic as well.
Hell yeah.
And I know that there are different nuances that are different that he puts in there. So I'm thinking they're going to get here and Omni-Man's not going to show up. That was immediately what was going through my head. I'm like, he's not going to show up. This is way too early for this to happen.
Yeah.
And he comes, and as soon as that first punch happens, I was like, he's about to fuck them up right now.
But see, the way that they handled the execution of killing the Guardians of the Globe in the first episode was actually brilliant, because you have that conversation with Red Rush where he tells his girlfriend, like, yo, y'all read The Flash. Y'all know how you know what I'm saying? And he tells you, I perceive things just as fast as I move. You know what I mean? So then when everyone is assembled at the HQ and no one knows what's going on, Red Rush is the one that goes, nah, son, something ain't right. Oh, there's Omni-Man right there, and then saves, War Woman or whoever the fuck he like pulls out of the way. But it's those like links back to like previous storytelling, even if it's a short amount of time, make that pathos hit so much harder when you build up those Guardians in their, regular civilian, free time lives right before going to go get murdered. It was just the best way to give that scene early that you could have possibly, like, it was the best execution possible for that change, in my opinion.
Great.
That's crazy.
And like, so we're only talking about episode 1, or are we talking about the full season right now?
The full season. Anything cool that you thought was different?
Some things that Okay, that's kind of spoilery. Let me say. I'm trying to think of some ways to say. No. Yeah. So I'm trying to like.
Season 1 of the animation.
There's things that they showed you, and if you're not a reader, you didn't catch it immediately. But things that it's little Easter eggs that'll be there for season 2. So for season 1, another thing that I did enjoy, I enjoyed like the order of events. Whereas they kind of gave us the alien invasion in episode 2. They gave us things like that earlier on where they're pushed off a little bit further and things like that. Robot deciding, you know what I'm saying, let me go ahead and clone myself, things like that. This is this is off. Like
I feel like Robot's character arc didn't like really take off like that the way that we see in season 1 until like chapter like 65.
Holy shit. What?
So, maybe it's not that drastic, but it was like I remember being like, okay, they're doing a lot of things really quickly, but like I have no complaints. They're speeding this up the right way. I've never seen nothing like this.
Currently, and I'm on issue 37 right now, and this robot stuff hasn't happened.
So real quick before you move on. So Chief brings up a really good question. So did the Guardians put up as much of a fight in the comics compared to the
series? Will probably be better on that. It's literally been like almost like 15 years since I've read.
It's identical.
This comic.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they put up more of a fight in the TV series, I believe, than they did because in the TV series, Omni-Man goes to the hospital.
Yeah, and I think I remember in the comic, I feel like they totally brush over this, and they just show Omni-Man just like covered in blood with the Guardians dead like next to him, and I feel like they off-screened a lot of it. To be honest with you,
they like kind of
someone in the comments might correct me, but I feel like they brushed over a lot of this shit.
He punches them. They show like a punch, and then it just shows everybody fucked up.
Yeah,
and Omni-Man literally, Omni-Man goes home to dinner like.
Oh
shit!
So
yeah. Oh shit! That's right. He goes back to the crib
like nothing. So like in the TV series, he gets more of a beating than he does in the comic.
Yeah, you're totally right, dude.
Demolishes them. Like
God damn.
It's like 2 panels, and then it's like next chapter. Next chapter, he's eating. Hey, honey. And it's like,
Because that's one of like that. I remember that's like one of the nonchalant hero life tones that they set, you know what I mean? And we see that in the first season of Invincible, how, you know, he's like, you'll never believe, I know I'm late for lunch, but you'll never believe I had to fight a dragon. It was crazy. I beat his ass. You know what I mean? Like the nonchalant, like conversations about life-threatening situations, like that's established in the first season. But I do remember that they played into the murder of the Guardians of the Globe into Nolan coming back from that, just nonchalant eating his dinner. Like, what's up?
Damn.
I had some shit to take care of. You know, it's not a big deal. You know, and I remember, I completely forgot about that. Good shit.
He's hospitalized in the TV show.
Yeah.
And no, he cleans them up really nice.
Damn, okay.
The comic. Other things that are different. I don't think we Demon Detective. We get a little shorter snippet of him, more so than in the comics. We get a little bit more.
I love how that nigga is just like Constantine and like Etrigan. And
that's what I said.
Yeah, I was like,
that's exactly what I said.
Brilliant character.
Perfectly said that you said that, Knox, because this was the fun that me and James, that's what I don't want him to read, because I might still not read yet, because I love to kind of theorize and just chat, be like, oh my God, this is interesting, like just to see us, because when me and James first watched the show, we spoke about, he's like Constantine, like Eric again, and we said, okay, so the Richardites are like Saiyans. But they're not gonna tell us yet until like the last episode.
No,
and James are technically right.
Okay, because you guys were watching, you know, from the show. But I think it's hilarious. I can't remember who said it. It was someone in one of my comic book group chats, I think. Maybe it was Kichi. But someone was like, they really took Dick Grayson as a main character, gave him the powers of Superman with like the home history of like Planet Vegeta, like literally like the history of the planet is Saiyans, and like what they're about feels like Saiyans, but it's obviously Krypton too at the same time inside of the power set, and then the main character is literally just Nightwing, and like that was such a funny comment, and I was like, you're killing the game with that.
I did not see the Nightwing, but that makes total
Grayson?
sense.
Yeah, he looks like him.
Black slick back hair? Come on, son.
Oh,
Ain't you the Nightwing, nigga?
I just didn't see it. I just didn't see it. But like the worst part is like I see that.
Yeah,
but like this was the fun, like to kind of theorize like and make like, oh my god, Constantine arrogant. Like the Richard March are fucking saying like at the end of episode 8, like I don't want to jump too far in, but he literally said, oh, I gotta tell the truth. Yeah, we don't really save planets. We technically enslave them. Like, they become our bitches. I was like, yo, me and James said this on episode 1, and we finally get the confirmation of shit. Like, this was so much fun.
Spicy Lady said Hellboy, too.
Yes, Hellboy.
And Hellboy, too. You have to make the Hellboy reference.
Yes.
Actually, what I said was more like the question and Etrigan. That's actually what I said.
That's it. See, you could throw, like, a lot of combinations like that out for that. That makes sense too, because the question is all about that shit. He's that fucking like, I can't even explain, but the way that you see the demon detective kind of like skeptical of everything that everyone says to them while still keeping like a very cool demeanor that doesn't let you know like all of their thoughts at one time. That's very question Rorschach. Absolutely.
Yeah, because as soon as Nolan killed the Guardians, I started thinking back. I was like, no, fuck everything he told Mark. They don't save planets. They rule them.
Oh, okay. So you put that together before the finale. That's amazing. That's amazing because when I was reading it in the comic, I remember being like, I was reading it for the first time. You got the original Viltrumite explanation, and I was like, that's tight. That's tight. Then all the subversion starts happening, and I completely forget about that moment until he's like, we got to talk. Here's what Viltrum really is. And then you see that it's literally the exact same story, but like with things replaced in malevolent ways. And I'm like, I was taken completely surprised by surprise in that moment. I just want to say, like, in the comic book, they fucking knocked that shit out of the park for me because I was not ready for the exact same explanation, but like evil. Like that was so tight.
It was wild because me and James were like, yo, these are like fucking like Saiyans. They're like, there's no way. Like they conquer planets.
Yeah, the only difference is they don't sell them.
They
just add them to the Viltrum Empire.
Being in the comic because I've read the story. So hearing their theories, I'm like, yo, JB and Vash on point. I was like, how did they fucking figure this out? Because I didn't figure it out reading it. But I'm sitting there just watching. I'm like, dog, these dudes are really figuring shit out.
And I think that's just a testament to the good writing of the show itself. Because like I said, like I thought about the conversation that he had with Mark at the beginning. And then I watched how he brutally murdered the Guardians. I'm like, no, he's systematically removing any opposition to make sure that the planet is primed for takeover.
Wow, they don't go to fucking game.
Yeah, they don't go to different planets helping them with like healthcare and different technologies. They're adding them to the fucking empire, bro. Like this is absolutely
But you see how
crazy.
they brought that back? You see how Nolan brought that back in the finale and said, "Hey, I know I lied to you about this entire situation, but there's still logic on the malevolent side of things because it's like we've introduced your planet to technology that like they would have or what he says is we will introduce your planet to technology and medicine that it would have taken them 60, 100, 150 years to reach." That's like when he said that shit, I was like, man, maybe y'all should just surrender, bro, because it's like Earth kind of fucking sucks, dude. Yeah, I was like,
cancer, flying cars.
Trash. Because when you think about like big pharma and things that are like actually big problems in our IRL situation, when you have a motherfucker that's coming here and going like, yeah, it's scorched earth policy, but once the earth is scorched, whoever survived is gonna eat in a ways that y'all never saw on this planet before. And it's like, well, it's like the meme where the motherfucker's pouring the Henny, like this nigga kind of spitting, you know what I'm saying? Like, it makes you don't fully empathize and agree with it. But the fact that Kirkman can take such a monstrous character, especially in the finale of Nolan, the character design work and like the animation for Nolan, they made that motherfucker look way crazier. When I tell you this what the story that this finale covers in the show is so much more drastic than what happens in the comic book. They made Nolan look way crazier, way more diabolical, way more antagonistic than they did in the comic book. And this is a good choice because I don't think we've ever seen such an impressive villain in the first season of anything. And maybe I'm forgetting something. Let me know in the comments or whatever.
Well,
Maybe it's recency bias or whatever. But I can't remember the last time that I was this blown away by an antagonistic force in the first season of anything.
Well,
And
I'll
it
say-
makes so much sense because there's so much pathos on Nolan's side. There's so much, like everything makes sense up until this motherfucker just loses it and he looks like a fucking like exaggerated, malice monster in manga. Like, I don't know how they made this motherfucker look this crazy, but like when he's over Mark and he's like, blah, 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 and like yelling at him and shit, I'm like, whoa, like I don't remember this at all. You know what I mean?
use
It's
your
like,
brain. He's really
like those scenes were different, dude. You know what I mean? And they made him a lot more, they added a lot to this ass whooping. You know what I mean? Like this, a lot of these things I do not remember the train scene in the comic book. Remind me, Scuba. It's not there. Exactly. I don't remember. I don't remember a lot of this shit. They added a gang of shit to make Nolan look as vicious as possible. You know what I mean? And it feels great because that's what you need for this first season. And at the same time, it's like, okay, it already felt right in the comic book. Then you see all these liberties being taken in the first season of the show, and you're like, you're changing a lot of stuff up, but I'm not complaining about nothing that you're changing, son. And while we're on the topic of like changes that were made from like the comic book to the show, I just want to throw this out here. I love the progressive changes that they made to like character cultures and like different ethnicities that they gave different characters. But like it always makes me, and I love to talk about like Hollywood board meetings that I've literally never seen interviews for. I always love assuming what these board meetings are like. If you followed me on like anything, I'm literally always talking about, okay, so Hollywood was probably in here with like 7 people saying that. I've done it on this
That's
episode
me
already.
on this show.
Yeah, exactly.
Same here.
We do this shit. Like we
done
love
the same
doing that. Now what I'm thinking about Invincible, I don't know, who is all a part of the creative team. I don't know how diverse their
staff,
their workforce is. I don't know how diverse it is. But from the comic book to the show, you see that a lot of characters that were white are now black. You see that like William, for example, is gay right away, where like he's not gay for a while in the show. He actually dates
in
Adam
the comic.
Eve and shit in the comic for a little bit. You don't find out he's gay for a while. They made him gay instantly. You know what I mean? So like you see these progressive changes, that they make, and you're like, that's cool. Amber's not black in the fucking comic book. She's a fucking blonde girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So can we talk about finish what you were saying? But I do want to talk about Amber.
Yeah, that's where I was going. I do want to talk about Amber, but like as far as the progressive changes that were made for the times, I could tell that because Darkwing is not black in the comic book. Rexplode is not black in the comic
white
book.
Guy.
They made Rexplode light skin, and I'm sitting here going like, okay, I like what y'all are doing here with these things, but like, what are these board meetings like? Like, how diverse is it? Is it as diverse as we would expect, or is it really just a bunch of white people in a room going like, how many characters should we make black for this adaptation? How many characters should we make gay? And you know what I mean? And it's like, that's cool. Do what you got to do, but like, how funny is that room? Because look, this is why it's funny, right? Because Rexplode is an asshole. Comic book to show, it doesn't matter. He sucks. You know what I mean? And he was white in the comic book, but then he's like light skinned or like whatever fucking ethnicity he is in the show. And then you have Amber, blonde chick to black girl, and then you have Darkwing, whatever. And I'm sitting here going like, if this is a group of white people deciding all of these decisions, like, how do they do this? Like, okay, there's way too many white people. We got to add more black people. But maybe we shouldn't change all of the races for only like positive characters. It would feel weird if we made all of like the really cool white characters black. We got to split this up. Let's make some assholes black. Let's make some awesome characters, that were white before black. Let's split this up so it's not so obvious, right?
Is Titan
that's
black?
Such a weird Titan is black. But that's such a weird like conversation to imagine them happening. And it's so weird because like once you get to a character like Black Samson, it's like y'all are making all of these progressive changes in this from comic book to TV show. You make Amber black, you make Rexplode black, you make Darkwing black, but it's like, how does Black Samson even exist as a character anymore? with all of these progressive changes. Like, that is such a weird character to me in a show that's clearly trying to be aware of things like that. It's like, how is Black Samson still a name?
I think they changed
in this show.
They changed it based off of their voice actor, I believe, because Sandra Oh plays the mom, and she's not Asian in the comic at all.
Right.
I feel like
so Debbie's white in the comics.
Yeah. So everybody, Mark's not half Asian in the comic. He's white, because I think they base it off of their voice actor as well as to what Knox
we got
said.
Stephen Ewan and Sandra Oh.
Right.
And then Zaza Beetz is Amber. These people. So I think that also plays a part into the progressiveness that Knox was saying. And then also with that last scene that Knox was talking about on this finale, they don't show the train scene, but he does get a beat down really, really bad. But the dialogue is different in the little ways of, I don't know if you guys ever heard it's not what you say, it's how you say it type shit.
Right.
Yes.
So he does say, Mark says, "You love my mom," and he says, "I never loved your mom." And in the show, he says, "I loved your mom like a pet."
Yeah.
But in the comic, he says, "I never loved your mom. If I did love her," he said,
keep going.
He said, "If I did love her, she would be more of a pet." That's how he says it in the comic. In the series, in the TV shows, he says, "I love her like a pet." So if he would have said what he said in the comic in this TV series, along with that ass whooping, that would have changed everything.
Bro.
That would have changed everything. Yeah, he said,
damn.
And then on top of that, she's listening to the conversation. So imagine how that breaks it off.
So one more question about if they added this to the cartoon as well. About the end of the episode 8, the lights, where about the government stuff, of what we drink in the water.
That was some of the coolest shit I've ever seen.
So was that from the comics as well, or was that added in?
Yeah, it's in the comics as well.
Okay,
he's talking about how they walk into that white room, Knox, and then they turn the light on, and then he can
sure, yeah.
That's why I don't drink tap water, bro. I don't know what they're putting in that shit. I don't drink tap water.
That's why I was asking if that was added, because how we all say that's a meme, but to actually see that in the cartoon show and that's playing for all, because we all make a joke what do we eat, what do we drink from the government, because it's something that we don't know and everything. So to actually see it in the cartoon, that's why I asked if they also had it in the comic. But it seems like it was on both, so that's why.
Dude, that was one of the most intriguing things of that entire season. Because when Cecil says, "You'll be surprised how often we use this," I instantly started thinking of a bunch of different shit. Like, what do they have in the middle of entire cities, bro? What the fuck?
Get ready for when that narrative point comes back around.
Comes back.
That's all I'm gonna say. Is all I'm gonna say. Because there's a reason why he says there's a reason why he says what he does in that episode.
Man. All right, so I want to get into the differences with Amber, and then we'll dive into the finale episode itself. So, Steve, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts on the biggest differences between Amber comic versus series?
Amber doesn't know about Mark at all in the comic. She literally she figures it out, and she more so figures it out, and then Mark, they have a conversation about it.
I remember in the comic book, she didn't know anything until Mark told her.
Yeah, until Mark told her. She has that conversation with the homegirl, and she kind of.
I remember there being a speculative. I remember there being a speculative conversation, but I remember it not going anywhere. And I remember,
it didn't go anywhere.
And I remember, in the comic, it felt so much better, obviously, because Amber didn't know anything, and Mark was hiding all of these things from her, and she was getting upset about it the way Amber was in the show originally. But then originally, when it comes back to be yo, I'm invincible, she's like, oh my god, that explains everything. I'm so sorry. I'm a piece of shit. I love you. You're a fucking superhero. I'm so dumb.
Makes so much more sense.
And it made so much more sense. You know what I mean? And in the show, it's you just threw her character away.
I
loved that change, because it's okay, yes. Before the show comes out, you read Invincible and you're dumb blonde girlfriend, doesn't know anything, and then the boyfriend tells her and it feels fine. But then in the show, you're okay, Amber's black now, and you're okay, that's cool. And she's sassy. She's got more of a personality. She's more of her own person. and you're like spicy, black version of Amber, this is tight. This is really cool. You know what I mean? And then I'm sitting there waiting after she's doing all of this shit talking to Mark about how come you always lie? Where were you when the cyborg was invading? Blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, hey, I'm invincible. And she's like, I know. And it's like, no,
you don't.
No, the fuck
don't.
you
That
didn't.
shit
No, the
pissed
fuck
me
you
off.
didn't. Because if you fucking knew,
You wouldn't have acted like this.
Knew, then why did you act the exact way you did in the cyborg scene? Because in the cyborg scene, when Mark suddenly vanished, when everyone was dying and you were helping, Mark came back after the end of the attack and you were like, where were you? I was taking care of all these people. You left. The typical like Mary Jane response, you know what I mean? Like, where the fuck were you when shit was popping off? You created that scene as if she was none the wiser. So why the fuck would you turn it into, I knew the whole time, I'm just a bitch? Why would you ruin her character like that?
That's the one thing I did not like about this adaptation.
It made no sense. Yeah. And then you have the fucking dude.
When she came back and hugged him, I would have.
No, wait, Steve, hug him? She did as kiss him. Yes. I'm like, I would have literally uppercut to the moon. I would like, bitch, get the fuck out of here.
I would have hugged her. I would have popped her eyes out of her fucking head.
It made no sense. Why the fuck wouldn't you, if you were going to end up making Amber in the show, someone who was going to come out with the twist reveal of always knowing that Mark was a fucking superhero, why would you give no hidden or otherwise clues that she was onto him at all? At least show, if you're going to do that, show me Amber putting things together. Right. Don't just fucking show her oblivious as fuck and just like spazzing out as anyone would if they didn't know why their boyfriend wasn't showing up to fucking dates and etc. Why would you set that up so perfectly in that way to subvert it in such a, like, it took me out of the show. Like, legitimately, like, it took, like, the immersion wasn't completely broken in that moment. And I was like, this is dumb. This doesn't make sense. This character is trash. You made her black. You gave her an incredible design. She looks way better than she does in the comic book. And you fucking blew it. Why? Because there's, and it goes back to that board meeting conversation. How diverse is this cast of people who are deciding the decisions for the show? Because it's like, son, no one, after all of that beautiful decision making for her character, would approve you going, let's ruin her character. Like someone had to be there, like, dude, you can't do this if you're going to make the white to black change. Like, what are you doing? You are literally throwing this character away after an amazing opportunity to make her better.
Yeah. One of the bigger atrocities for me is even before, when he missed the dinner with her parents, you knew that he almost died. You knew he was in the hospital for days on end because he almost died, and you're still giving him shit for missing dinner. Are you fucking kidding me? You knew this entire time. She's had weeks to process this information, and she never once considers, you know what? We've only been dating for 5 months. Maybe I should really consider the implications of a superhero giving up their secret identity and what that means, and consider that. Because they've built up Amber to be this super mature young woman, and then you give her this, and it's like, no, you're a stupid bitch, really?
Yeah. And in the comic book, he doesn't confess that he's invincible until after Omni-Man beats his ass.
Whoa.
So even further down. Yeah.
I think even further down than that. I think I remember it's even further down than that. So you have so much more riding on it than just the reveal that I'm invincible. It's not just, hey, here's the reason why I haven't been showing up to dates. It's, here's the reason why I haven't been showing up to dates. And my dad's a fucking crazy murder alien. And he expected me to be just like him. And I thought he was like a regular dad up until like 6 months ago. And you have so much more going into that reveal with Amber in the comic book than you do in the show. And they still squandered it, even with revealing it earlier than they should have, you know, or earlier than they should have, you know what I mean? So it's like, what were you really thinking was going to happen? That was the biggest miss in the show to me, in my opinion.
You said it perfectly. This is like my biggest con of the show itself, because I sent it to you guys in the group chat. Just a random panel that I saw on Twitter saying, Amber asking, tell me you are Invincible right now or Call of Duty and everything. And then the other conversation, he is and everything. And then she gets excited saying, my boyfriend is a superhero. And then he said, looks that way. And then after that, they just, start fucking everything.
Yeah, didn't she think he was a drug dealer?
Yeah, drug dealer.
Yes.
And like,
Had
that is funny.
All kinds of accusations on Buddy before he revealed it.
And like, that's funny, but like seeing from this panels without context, I'd rather have seen this Ember version from what I have seen from only like 5-6
in the
panels.
show.
In the
Yes.
they're talking about the comic.
Yeah.
I was like, son.
I'd rather have seen this comic book version of Ember personally onto the show. So like seeing that, like her being excited, saying that, oh, my boyfriend's a superhero, like, and her smiling about that, like that's something I would have like, yes, I get it. Teenage has emotions, they get mad, jump conclusion, and we get it. But from what Knox just said, that she accused him from so much, jobs, drug dealers and everything. I'd rather have seen those normal teenage drama trying to accuse somebody from being a drug dealer. Those are normal high school stuff. But saying you getting mad at him and dumping him 4 times and his gay best friend saying, oh, you got dumped like 5 times already, but you still just hanging around her. I'm like, that sounded like some toxic relationship. And that's what they try to show us, because in day and age with social media in 2021, everyone has toxic relationships somehow. So you want to put it on screen because Mark and Amber's toxic? Like, really?
Execution was ass if that's what they were going
for.
That's what
relation was very toxic and very bad.
Execution was warm ass.
That was so pissed off when she showed up. I'm like, you cannot trust her. This is her mentality, dude. This is the type of woman. She's only going to get worse as she gets older. She is going to be the type of woman, or the type of person in general, that if you were to go to save the rainforest, or if you were to save like a city full of tens of thousands of people, she would be pissed because you missed dinner.
Yeah,
because you
get
missed the anniversary.
She's like, where I was at this soup kitchen all by myself serving these 30 people while you were saving millions. How dare you go save millions while I'm feeding 30?
And this is the crazy thing.
I got my ass whipped by Battle Beast. I was like, yo, he literally
this nigga Battle Beast. We got to talk about Battle Beast.
I cannot wait to get more Battle Beast, bro.
My dude left back home because he got bored. He said, yo, you're too weak. Yeah,
there's no honor in killing weaklings.
Yes. Here's what
I'm like, yo, I want more of this. Battle Beast shit.
Yes, what I appreciate about Battle Beast, bro, is the fact that, like, up until that point, you understood, like, some people could understand that this is, like, a deconstruction that you can't expect anything from. You know what I mean? But up until that point, up until episode 5, you still like could see that this was different than any kind of superhero media that you had seen before, but they had not subverted that drastically yet. Like, literally, if you look at the Battle Beast ass whooping scene, you will see, especially if you're an anime like exclusive or a manga exclusive going into Invincible for the first time, you probably saw all types of shonen trope triggers inside of that scene. You had let's go through the list, right? So you had Invincible and Titan pulling up on Daft Punk nigga, and they were like, "What's good?" Yeah. You know what I'm saying? What we doing? You know what I'm saying? What's really good? You know what I mean? And they start squaring up, and all of a sudden he's like, "It's all good. I already thought about this. I'm like 5D chess nigga or whatever they built him up to be. Here's my team." And then you have Lava Guy, Electric Guy, Lion Guy. You know, like it seems like just like niggas who are there to oppose the main character. And it seems like all of these, like, you know, cookie cutter, like hired gun antagonists that you don't think are going to be fleshed out later on in the series as some of the strongest characters in the show. Like Battle Beast, like he pulls up, he doesn't get any like spotlight characterization. He doesn't get any like exclusive anything. He's just a nigga who's there along with all of the other bad guy number 1, 2, 3 motherfuckers who are there. So when Battle Beast finally turns up, you're like, wait a minute, this motherfucker is different. You know what I mean? And then after he beats him up, you're like, okay, he could be different. And they got me thinking that he was just a regular lion antagonist guy who was just in the background who's going to get whooped. No, he's different than that. But then you have, you guys are fucking dead. You know what I mean? And he fucking like, he like Super Saiyan like burst transformed.
He
He's
tried.
like, I'm beating the shit out of y'all, and then whoops him or whatever, and then Battle Beast is like, nope. And slams his shit into the ground, and you're like, wait.
Shut the fuck up.
No, he just had his Goku moment. What are you doing?
Right?
And then he keeps beating his ass. Then the Guardians of the Globe show up, and you're like, okay, here's the Deus Ex Machina, where they pull up and save the day. Then they all get scraped, and you're like, wait, why did they lose? And then all of a sudden, like, Mark is about to get fucking like pummeled by Battle Beast, and Black Samson is like, nah, son, and then like charges up his shit to like save him at the last moment, and you're like, this is more along the lines of what I'm expecting.
I thought
and
that would have been the moment where he got his powers
exactly.
back.
Exactly.
Me too.
Well, look
Oh
at it.
shit! Anime type of trope.
Even if it's not the moment where he gets his powers back, you sit there and go, he's going to make a difference here.
Yeah.
Because this is the opportune moment where the main character is about to get splattered and his friend pulls up and saves him, and then his fucking tech malfunctions and he's like, "Buh?" And then Battle Beast says, "Ah!" and crushes his shit. And you're like, no, he was supposed to be saved from that. And then the Guardians of the Globe go, y'all fucked up. Y'all fucked up our homeboy. Everyone else is dead. Everyone enter, DEFCON 1 protocol or whatever the fuck Robot says. And you're like, okay, this is the moment where they come back and actually do something. And no, Battle Beast just beats the brakes off of all of them again. And
Round 3.
Like, and that is the way the fucking episode ends, with everyone losing. And you're like, okay, episode 5 is really where Invincible shows you that it's nothing like episode 1, you're like, okay, crazy drastic twist, the Superman character's a bad guy, all right, I wasn't seeing that coming, but now that I know, hindsight's 2020, and okay, this is what kind of show it is, but we can still expect things from it. No, the fuck you can't, because then episode 5 comes around and fucking Mark gets a fucking hysterectomy on screen, and you're like, oh my god, the main character's not even safe. And it's like, the West has never seen anything like this before.
And I think that's why a lot of people were complaining, like, oh, Mark just gets beat up way too much. It's like, yeah, that's because you're spoiled on American comics and these other things where it's just like they just win at the end of every fight. No, this is
he
more.
Just started as a hero 6 months ago.
Exactly. This is more realistic. Like, he has no fight training. He just became a hero. He's still learning his powers. Why would he be winning all of these fights?
Yes, he's fucking crazy. He's a Kryptonian. He's a fucking Saiyan. Whatever the fuck you want to say about it. But his opponents are colder, son. Like, that's what it comes down to. You just give him opponents that are always tighter than him. If you're going to introduce someone with an invincible skill set,
right,
with I'm impervious to damage, regular niggas can't fuck with me, yada yada yada, then just make him fight all of the tightest people in the universe whenever he fites.
And it's crazy,
or show him just getting whooped by people who shouldn't be able to beat his ass but are taking advantage of the fact that he's a brand new hero.
Right.
It's actual fight right there. If Battle Beast isn't there, he wins that fight. Because once he turned up and said, "You guys are fucking dead," he beat everybody else's ass.
Yes,
so
he
did. When people were saying Mark is not a good fighter, I'm like, what are y'all watching? Because early on, he beat Titan. He basically 1 versus 3 people in there, and then all of a sudden he loses the Battle Beast. Oh, this dude gets his ass whooped every episode. Nigga, it's Battle Beast. Maybe
Battle Beast.
You might need to read on him, check his stats, because it's Battle Beast. And then the next time you see him fight, he fights the 3 robots. He getting jumped by them, but he's not fully recovered from the Battle Beast fight. And then on top of that, those 3 robots jump on Omni-Man, and Omni-Man is like, he got a rage to get him off.
Yes.
So I'm like, what do you expect from Mark 6 months in?
But see, the most drastic point is that Omni-Man is there watching the whole time. And you get a hint that Omni-Man is there. And when Mark is really getting his shit pushed in, you're like, well, we know Omni-Man is there. You know what I mean? So it's fine because Omni-Man is watching. And then Omni-Man does literally nothing.
See, I never ever thought that he was going to help Mark.
Yeah,
because to me, I was on that Saiyan mentality, right? Like, a Saiyan father would not go and help his son, no matter how young he is, too. Right. He could be, like, 5 years old. He wouldn't. That's why they send Saiyan babies to go attack entire planets by themselves, right? So I already had that mindset. So I was like, he's using this opportunity to see how powerful Mark really is, to see if he's ready to join the Viltrum mission. That's what he's doing.
Right. But I feel like a lot of what helps that is the fact that we have like Western understanding of like, you know, American home upbringings. You know what I mean? So you have Nolan or Omni-Man, who is trying his best to be an American father in all of the ways that are obvious to us up front. So when it finally comes to a point where your actual son is getting his shit pushed in by a fucking lion monster from another dimension, and you don't help, it hits us harder in that moment because we think that Nolan is supposed to be an earthling American character.
So
in fucking Dragon Ball, we got the fucking Planet Vegeta backstory long before any expectations of how Planet Vegeta Saiyan niggas are supposed to act. So by the time we finally find out that they're these ruthless warrior race, it makes sense. Yeah, your dad wouldn't fucking help you in a situation like that. But in fucking Invincible, you totally thought that nigga was going to do that because he's supposed to be Superman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Another thing that I thought was when he called, though, because they got a tip.
Yeah.
That, you know, there was a fight going on. All the Guardians showed up. I was thinking this is Omni-Man getting Battle Beast to do his dirty work as well.
Oh,
shit. The rest of the Guardians of the globe. Now I don't even got
Interesting.
You see what I'm saying? I don't even got to kill them. He just wiped out everything. So I was thinking that was what they were going with it because obviously, like I said, it's a little different in the TV show than the comics.
Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking that they were going with. I was like, okay, Battle Beast is about to murder everybody except for Mark. And then now Omni-Man doesn't even have to get his hands dirty. He's like, you saw what happened. You know what I'm saying?
So to add about episode 8 and about Omni-Man himself, because it makes me wonder that Omni-Man went back to the planet of Viltrumite, knowing that he probably was going to get the illest type of lecture or
Do we know that?
Did he go back to Viltrum?
No,
we don't know where he is.
No,
I don't think we know where he's supposed to be.
I'm assuming that. I remember.
Okay.
Not comic book readers. I'm assuming this because knowing that he's the one that failed his mission, from what we know from the character of Seth Rogen that played the guy at the end. I forgot
Al
his
the
name.
alien, I think.
Bro, Alan?
Alan the alien, right?
Yeah, Alan. Yo.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's the same kind of situation as Piccolo. We know that motherfucker is black. I'm just telling you right now. Alan's a nigga, bro.
Definitely.
Seth Rogen as a character was amazing.
And I love the voice actor for Seth Rogen for Alan is like
he's like an executive producer or something like that.
I didn't know.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah.
It's like Seth Rogen's like an executive producer.
It fits for him and everything, and like it fits for his character because I love how Alan asked him like, so how you been? How has it been going for you? And then we get all the flashback of what's been going on for the past 6-8 months that he's been as here. I'm like, yo, Mark, you need to see a therapist because you've been through a lot of shit, my guy. Like, you need to see somebody. Like, you just got fucked up by your father, by aliens, by like a lot of shit. You literally brought a whole parasite from Mars. You literally got a whole parasite in Earth now. So, like,
he didn't bring it.
Well, he didn't bring it, but
I'm just saying they never clarified that it's there.
Wait, what are you talking about, Steve?
Saying a parasite from Mars.
It's in Earth.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on the show we did see it attached to one of the astronauts coming back to Earth, so that's what I assume.
Actually,
anyway.
You're right. They did touch on that plot point, Steve. Because
I know what you know what it is, right?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying. Look, I don't know if he brought back a parasite.
Well, they start no because
the show.
Wait, what did Vash say?
He said that they brought back a parasite.
It was didn't it attach itself to one of the astronauts?
Listen, right. So in the original arc where you see those fucking like Lovecraftian octopus aliens that attach themselves to humans, we started that arc in the show. And then it touches on that again in the finale.
Episode 8,
in the finale. And that's, I think, what Vash is talking about.
Yeah, but he said that they brought the parasites back with them.
Right, which is a plot point in the comic book, but it's easier for you to draw that, like, well, I don't know, actually. No.
Yeah, that's not true. I mean, it's not necessarily true, but it's not wrong. I don't want to, without spoilers, did he bring back a parasite?
Not Mark, but one of the astronauts.
I can't remember
There's a scene.
I can't remember the comic book.
There's a scene with the astronauts on the shuttle, and you can see it move from the American flag like into like some other part of his suit. So I would have to go back to double check, but I'm pretty sure
with those aliens, like you see the astronaut in like
one
for
of
like
them,
3 frames. For like 3 frames, you see that nigga like covered with aliens, and he's like, and he looks sinister as shit for like 3 frames. In the last episode, you see that. So
yeah.
Hey, Knox, check your Twitter message. I just messaged you what it actually.
Yeah. Thank you.
So we pretty much go ahead, Vash. Go ahead.
But my question was, to you guys, the comic book reader, is Omni-Man, because most of the Viltrumites has to be stronger than Omni-Man, is what I'm asking. Because Omni-Man literally whooped Mark's ass and everything, and we found out by Alan the alien, saying that there is like a rebellion against the Empire, you know. In a nice little Star Wars type of reference there, knowing that there's some type of rebellion, which is so awesome to have that type of Star Wars reference for. And so is other Viltrumites stronger than Omni-Man, aka Nolan?
Well, I'm not going to talk about strength, but I'm just going to tell you right now, as far as
they're more ruthless.
Yeah, dude.
Yo,
They showed you one of the most ruthless Viltrumites in this fucking episode, and I'm not even gonna say who it was, but like they showed you like one of the top Viltrumites, bro, in this episode. When I tell you,
like, oh shit.
I have to rewatch it.
I'm telling you, like so I watched the episode 3 times. I watched the episode 3 times. Wow. And I watched it with fans of the comic book. Kichi was there. He's in the chat right now. And some others. And we watched it. And when we saw that motherfucker, we were like, you know, the fucking...
the Leonardo
DiCaprio
from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Wall Street. We were like, hey! Yeah, so we saw that. But then I watched it with a buddy of mine who hasn't read the comics. And then when it panned over Buddy, he was like, that motherfucker looks different. And I was like, hey, man, remember, bro. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I'm not going to say nothing.
You're watching that for that
scene. So that's a great transition point to what I wanted to talk about. We've been bouncing around the finale for a little bit, but this is something that I really wanted to talk about real quick.
Let's go.
I did not expect like that scene on Viltrum where they decided, oh, we needed to get rid of the weak. And by the time they were done, they were left with half of their population. And just getting that little glimpse of them killing each other was fucking insane, bro.
Phenomenal. Like that shit was so crazy to see.
So how was that compared to the comic?
It was the same, but like it was obviously just like updated in ways that you can only show in the animation medium. You know what I mean? Like you saw panels of Viltrumites fighting for this like survival of the fittest or whatever, but obviously the choreography and the animation and everything involved in this studio that's been killing it inside of this adaptation enhanced that scene in ways that you would expect from comic book to animated medium, you know what I mean? So the same way that we can't wait to see certain fights in One Piece animated because we know that, Oda kind of leaves it up to Toei to like fill in the gaps in those ways. You know what I mean? So like in the same way that we're waiting for Zoro versus Kamazo, the same way that we're waiting for Roger versus Whitebeard, like we saw it in the manga and it was drastic, but the anime really enhanced that. That's the exact same situation for that Viltrumite scene, in my opinion.
Because of that scene reminded me a lot about the movie Bardock. Because you know how Bardock and other Saiyans were getting stronger and then Frieza wanted to wipe them out because they're getting too strong and everything, so he wanted to wipe out the weak. Like that scene reminded me a lot of that because I'm like, yo, Richard must have dead us killing each other left and right. So who's like our parents and cousins and uncles and all just killing each other left and right. Like, damn, they literally did a whole Armageddon of what's that movie of that one night of the year they break the rules and everything.
The Purge.
The Purge.
The Purge.
They literally did the Purge, but like literally Purge on the whole world. I'm like,
right. It's more so like if you're familiar with the philosophy of like Apocalypse in X-Men comics. It's essentially like that philosophy, but like a whole race of people instead of just the strongest mutant on that. Like we've seen it before. It's literally just social Darwinism to the utmost extreme that we've seen. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and you guys mentioned that the train sequence didn't happen in the comics. So I'm kind of curious, did the cruise ship scene happen, like where like they go to they go back to Everest? Like did all of that happen in the comic as well?
Everest happens. So like it was so funny because my homeboy, I can't remember who it was on the timeline, like made a tweet that was like, I feel like Omni-Man was being extra as fuck in this fucking episode. Like,
Yeah,
bro,
yeah.
he said that yacht was not in your way, bro.
Yeah. So in the,
And I was screaming because like I watched the episode and he fucking like crushed, Mark through that yacht
and he comes
randomly
back
in the middle of the Atlantic, and it's like you didn't need to crash into that. And then he beats his ass underwater after crashing through it the first time, and then brings him back up through the same yacht, and it's like, really, nigga?
in the comic, he
You just
literally
killed
said-
like 100 people every time you did this for like no reason.
He literally says in the comic, he punches him and then he goes, "This is what one punch would do to this planet."
Right.
And he said, "This is how many lives we'll take from a fight from us." And
Yeah.
that's why he punched him into it. But he doesn't actually say that dialogue in the series.
He didn't say it
He
in the
just
show.
does it. He
Yeah.
shows you, like, when I'm whooping your ass, this is how many people will die because I'm whooping your ass. Like, so he does the train shit. He does the yacht.
Dude,
after he
that
pulls him out of the
might
water,
be like one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen. Like just watching that train sequence happen, I'm like,
Bro,
dude,
the
so
Wait,
many
hold
people
on.
are dying.
For me-
the over the shoulder perspective as he's running into all the people, and like his invincibility obviously isn't letting him take damage, but he's literally like erupting regular humans in front of like back to back. I was like, bro,
So
this is
that
the
just fucked me
scene
up.
you add. This is the
Right.
filler you add to this. Like,
No,
period.
I 100% agree with all three of you that what you're saying, that the train scene fucked me up and everything. I was like speechless, but the scene that fucked me
Yeah.
emotionally and that fucked up Mark emotionally is when he tried to save that building and he told he grabbed the lady's hand. And when his
That was
father
rough,
took
bro.
down the whole building down, and when
He-
Mark thought he still was holding the lady's hand, we took over the rock, and literally was the hand itself only, like
Yeah,
just literally
that was drastic.
hand in the forearm.
Yeah.
That shit fucked me up in the head.
see,
And Mark
here's the thing-
more, I like, Mark was like, I couldn't even save one person.
Yeah.
That's when Mark's father knowing like, you see, these people lives don't mean anything. You can't even save one life. I was like, hey, Mark was crying like that shit fucked me up more than the train scene. Yeah, the train scene.
The train
That
scene was
shit.
drastic. The building scene was crazy, but I feel like as far as like the point you're making right now, Vash, the pilot scene kind of hits a little bit more for that moment because
Yeah, bro.
because when it comes to the building scene, like Mark has already kind of experienced that exact same situation when the aliens invaded.
Right, with
Because
the
the
Flaxans.
aliens first invaded, the Flaxans invaded, and then that old like grandma was like on the street and he was like, I'm gonna help you out. And then they got exploded and then they fell and then she took mortal damage from like shrapnel or something like that and then died in front of him. And that was like his first like real situation like that. And then that building scene was kind of just like a recreation of that. Sure, Omni-Man was at like, the catalyst for it, so it makes it a lot more dramatic. But like as far as like a moment that intrinsically changes Mark, I think him saving the pilot, bringing him to a level where he's like cool, and then having a conversation together like, yo, you saved me. Thank you so much. I thought I was a goner. And then fucking Omni-Man landing right
Your
behind
father.
him. And just, exactly. Like it was a lot more arbitrary. Like, you know what I mean? Like it didn't make as much sense as someone dying in the midst of like apparent cataclysm around everybody.
Right.
Like, that nigga was safe. Like the pilot
Like,
was
dead
good,
ass safe.
son.
And literally
Like
just
he
saying,
was
clap
good,
hands.
and that motherfucker just crushed his fucking skull
And said,
with
"Why
one
you saving
hand.
him?"
He didn't need to do that, but
He
like,
didn't.
but
He was
the
being
people
extra.
in the building, the family in the building that died was like a casualty of war. Like that made
Right.
sense for the moment, but like that nigga in the ship in the jet did not need to die. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
he
And I
did.
feel like that was a bigger moment, and the train scene obviously were bigger moments for Mark in realizing what Omni-Man was doing to him than the fucking building. But the building scene was still drastic, bro.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. I'm just throwing things out there for
Oh, of
like,
course.
analytically, you know what I mean? But like your point that you brought up was still brilliant about the building scene. for
And
sure.
it's so
Of course, I
fucked up of
appreciate that. Thank you for
Omni-Man
adding it.
thinking that he's teaching Mark a lesson. It's like everyone on
That's
this
what they-
planet will die pretty much before you look. Well, he didn't say that exactly, but he mentioned something about everyone he loves is going to die
Before you look
he
30.
even looks 30.
Yes, exactly.
And then he
like
also
that-
mentions that the planet will be dust and you'll still be alive. And it's like,
right.
he's trying to show him how useless human life is. But he
Yes.
grew up 17 years as a human.
Yes.
Like, to the fact that you think that he's just automatically going to go with the Viltrumite ideals is ridiculous.
That's the drama that makes that scene so great, because once you understand the Viltrumite situation after getting two like backstories for it, like you get the first backstory that's like my 8-year-old son is hearing it, then you get the real backstory like my adult son is hearing it. So you have two versions of this backstory. You have this Nolan character who's been brilliantly characterized through a combination of the animation studio and J.K. Simmons, and obviously the writing of Robert Kirkman. You have all of this stuff going into Omni-Man's character and why you sympathize with him. The pathos that was laid out was brilliant inside of the flashback of Mark playing baseball. All of that goes into why you root for Mark. But then there's also logic on the Viltrumite side in regard to, we've seen this all the time inside of Immortal Stories. You know what I mean? UQ Holder is like the biggest example that I can give. It's a fucking sequel manga to for any manga, like hardcore manga fans out there, if you're familiar with Ken Akamatsu as a mangaka, he did Love Hina into Maho Sensei Negima, and then of course into the sequel of UQ Holder. But if you follow UQ Holder, it's cool how he did that, because it's kind of like a self-contained sequel. You don't need Negima before you read UQ Holder or watch UQ Holder. But when you start UQ Holder, you can tell that there's previous story there that you're missing, and obviously it fills in those gaps. But the main point that I'm making about UQ Holder is that it's a story where the power system is immortality. Just same way that Chakra is the power system for ninjas and Nen is the power system for hunters, you have immortality, that's the power system for immortals inside of UQ Holder. And you have this in a couple of different forms. You have vampires who are immortal, werewolves who are immortal, niggas who have transferred their consciousness into robotic bodies and full prosthetics. It explores that immortality concept so well. And the main theme is like, we don't get to have relationships. You know what I mean? Everyone normal that we meet, we have to either just like not fuck with or kill eventually because of our job or whatever. But it's like, you can't marry a regular person as an immortal for the reasons that they talk about in the Invincible finale. Because it's like, bro,
they'll be dead.
You know, banned from 7 Deadly Sins. We have all kinds of examples of this, especially if you're anime, you know, friendly going into Invincible, that make this scene way more impactful because you've heard this narrative before and it makes sense to you logically, you know, for a multitude of different reasons. So you're sitting here going, okay, Omni-Man, you fucking suck. I want you to die. Stop beating up Mark. You're being really shitty to Debbie and she can fucking hear you. And that doesn't sit right with me. Shout out to JD Legend. We're right there on that. But like, bro, you can't be doing all this. And then you sit there and go, well, wait a minute. Because the way J.K. Simmons is laying this down, it's like, well, yeah, everyone you know and love is going to be dead before you show any signs of aging. So in a vacuum, what does that mean to you? And you go, wait a minute, this nigga's spitting. And then Mark is like, they're going to have a life. They're going to live 30, 50, 60, 70 years, and they're going to create moments that matter to them. It doesn't matter to you because it's just a speck in your timeline, but it's all about putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And that scene really drove that point home. Put yourself in someone else's shoes, even when all the logic is on your side.
Facts, bro.
And that's why I love the Invincible comic or comic book TV adaptation for that scene versus how they handled this ass whooping in the comic book, because it's still epic in the comic book, but what you're able to do inside of the medium of voice acting and animation is just, you're going to be able to accomplish a lot more emotionally. You know what I mean? And I feel like they absolutely did that in the Invincible show.
Yeah. So they're go ahead, Steve.
Oh no, I was about to say that's the thing that I love about Robert Kirkland, because he takes something so small and he adds it to a regular story that you've already heard and makes it so drastic. Like in Walking Dead, you've already heard a zombie story, I don't know how many times. But then he adds this little small speck. Oh yeah, everybody dies when and then they turn into a zombie. No matter what, you're going to turn into one. You don't have to. You don't have to. And that's that little.
It's that massive subversion that you weren't ready for. But then as soon as you get the information in the comic book, you're like, that makes so much sense for this world.
Yeah, and that's for this one. You're used to. Oh, you're going to get a Superman. You've heard a Superman story a million times. oh, but this one thing, you age slower the older you get. So you live for thousands of years. And it's
which is a drastic subversion of like the super soldier weapons plus program inside of Marvel Comics, where you have Wolverine, which has actually been explored in adaptation in the Logan movie. You know what I mean? Where the older you get, the worse your healing factor gets.
Yeah.
And it's like a muscle, just like flying. So like your healing factor is the most potent when you're young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, spring chicken. You know, and then as you work that healing factor out over time and you reach your 300, 500, 600, 700s, now that muscle is weaker, and it's, just like how people age and our muscles atrophy or whatever the fuck you want to call it, the better term. But like it makes sense in that regard, but it's literally the exact opposite when it comes to Viltrum. And it's I feel like that's a node to Western comic book expectations with healing factors and shit. You know what I mean?
It's such a twist to you because you saw Mark grow up.
Right.
So the age factor never plays in your head until they say it. You see what I'm saying? You never see Omni-Man grow.
At the end of Invincible, though, I want to say, at the end of Invincible, Mark looks like significantly older than he does at the start of the series.
This is true.
And that could be in part. That could be in part from the switch of illustrators from fuck, dude. I feel so bad whenever I forget the original illustrator of Invincible's name because everyone praises Ryan Ottley, and obviously Ryan Ottley's art is just like untouchable inside of fucking Invincible. But you have to give props to the original illustrator for establishing this universe in the first place.
Yeah, because the art changed from book 1 to book 2 and book 3, right? The art changed from
drastically from one illustrator to another. Ryan Ottley is a different nigga, bro. I promise you.
If I may ask, out of the art from book 1, book 2, and book 3, which one's your favorite? Because I know a lot of people say book 2 is their favorite art.
If anyone says they prefer anyone's art over Ryan Ottley's, they're fucking lying to you.
Yeah.
Like a motherfucker. Ryan Ottley is objectively the best Invincible artist. And see me in the comments if you disagree. Peachy will be there. He'll back me up.
And that's one for book 2, right?
Mercenary just brought up a funny joke. What's Robert Kirkman's obsession with beating up characters played by Stephen Yeun? But I love that you guys brought up how Kirkman subverts expectations because it wasn't until... Cory
Walker.
It wasn't until The Walking Dead that I even considered that humans are actually the worst thing in the zombie apocalypse.
Yes.
It's not the walkers, it's humans.
Yes.
And then I was like, oh shit. Yeah.
Because when I'm going through The Walking Dead for the first time, I'm like, okay, this is really compelling storytelling. I love everything that Robert Kirkman's doing here in the comic book and the show. But like, you have the lamest zombies ever. Like, sure, you're going to take advantage of cinematic time, and you're going to say you didn't notice this slow, moaning zombie before they were right on your shoulder, and that character's dead for whatever, and that's fine. It works for the show. But if you look at something like 28 Days Later, that's real horror.
Right.
You have a fucking zombie that sprints. I am killing myself the first day. if 28 Days Later was a real plot, if I heard that on the fucking radio, these zombies are different. This is nothing like George A. Romero. These niggas are sprinting like Usain Bolt. I'd be like, bet, nigga, pow. You don't gotta worry. I'm not a main character in this. I don't want to deal with this. You know what I mean? And
there's too many people that are out of shape to deal with something like that. Like,
have you seen the movie?
I'm about to say that would make me mad if random Joe Blow over here is 300 pounds and out of shape. He dies, but he gets up and now he's fast. Wait, you were supposed to be out of shape still. I don't care if you're zombie or not.
Yeah, because
I don't give a fuck if Ving Rhames is my homeboy, like Dawn of the Dead. I don't give a fuck if Ving Rhames is my shooter, son. If these zombies are running at me on walls and shit, no.
Have you seen World War Z?
Movie, G, I promise.
Yeah, like World War Z.
World War Z is the worst one.
No, those zombies been running like on the sprinting, energized.
They have a literal hive mind. They're like, hey, all these niggas are up here. We can't get there. We're dumb zombies. Let's run on top of each other. No.
Yeah, I would have killed myself. Like once I saw those zombies going, I'm like, all right, I'm out.
My brains out.
I'm good.
I promise you.
I ain't becoming that.
So on the topic of zombies, right? The
Yeah.
undead soldiers that doctor's been working on, that Cecil
Sure.
is now building an army.
Yo,
Is
that's
it like
wild.
that in the comic?
Yeah, they're that drastic in the comic for sure.
Like,
They're more
I'm
drastic
so-
in the animation because you can actually see every movement that they make, and they can make those impact scenes hit a lot more, because when you have cinematic time manipulation the way that you have in animated media, then you can have Omni-Man doing all of this shit over here in full motion, and then literally just like 3 frames dedicated to a motherfucker popping up behind him and literally biting him out. Like it makes it a lot more suspenseful, where in comic book form, it's Omni-Man looks great in this panel, and then in the next panel, the dude is right behind him biting
Right.
his neck. It serves the same purpose, and it, like, in the storytelling, but in the animated medium, it hits that much harder because you have so many cutaways, and you have so many dramatic zoom ins, and you have so many, things that you can do inside of the medium that makes those scenes hit harder. So I appreciate the zombie cyborgs in the show a lot more than the comic book, even though in the comic book, they served the exact same purpose almost just as potently. We need the show in order to look back at the comic and go, the show is better. But before the show came out, you were like, this was executed perfectly.
Yeah.
You
So
know
And
what?
also,
Go
rest
ahead.
in peace to Donald. Rest in peace to Donald, because my man Donald, he gave a troop. He died trying and everything. And also, we didn't really speak much about Cecil. I know that James said it on the chat, but he is a great example of a Nick Fury with balls that would literally like he.
I
said it
think he's the
himself.
perfected version of Nick Fury.
Oh,
Yeah, because
It's like the perfect combination of the black and white Nick Fury.
Yeah.
oh wow,
Crazy
wow,
is Cecil?
wow, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Mark doesn't meet Cecil until that ass whooping.
Yeah,
Dude, what?
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
In the
Yeah,
comic,
that's right. That's right.
in the
I think I
comic,
remember that.
ass
Yeah.
whooping is what makes him meet Cecil.
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
And that's what
Interesting.
makes that conversation hit so much harder, when he's like, "Yo, your dad's out of here. We need a new Omni-Man."
Yeah.
And Mark is like, "Nigga, I just met you.
yeah.
You're 36."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
Wow.
I'm 17, bro. I just got my shit pushed in by my dad. Like, let me live, G.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it makes that scene make a little
Damn.
bit more sense. Yeah, I think I remember that.
So I have
Yeah, but thing
questions.
is-
Go ahead, Vash.
I was just gonna give my last thought about Cecil, and like that's like props to him as a character, because he even said it in the finale of episode 7. Like, I hate working with this man, but this is part of the job to save the planet. I have to put my emotions and my morals aside. I have to work with this man that I wish I could just blow up his head. And when he said it, like, damn, Cecil's like the boss of like Nick Fury, that he would have to cross the line, because he needs to cross the line to save the planet. Like, this is his job, to save the fucking planet.
Yeah.
And when Cecil at the end of episode 8, when he literally was working with the man, and the man was like, "Yeah, I'm working for you, guy." And then Cecil didn't even comment or something. Like, he knows what he has to do, because he knows Omni-Man is trying, like, it is a threat, and to know there's other people like him, so that means he knows that he has to prepare for the worst. It's like, yo, Cecil knows what's up, and he knows what's ready to get. Like, they're even rebuilding Immortal, and like, I can't wait to see it. Hopefully Immortal could do more, because we saw only like a fraction. I don't know how it's in the comics, but like, we only saw a fraction of him. So to see, like, hopefully the people what to do with the stones or whatever other stuff they were doing in the little light room, can't wait to see what other things they're gonna explore for that.
Yeah,
The next time you
that's
see
the-
that light room is gonna be so cold blooded in the show, bro. Like, I promise you. I remember
Sick,
when
man.
they finally came back to that in the comic book. Steve, you know what I'm talking about. When
Mm-hmm.
when you finally see like why that room, like why that conversation happens in the season finale, like I like that is the next like major scene that I can't wait to see.
I think that's going
my
to
head
be
in the
season
show.
2's finale. I think
Oh.
they're going to stretch it. I think they're going to wait
Oh my
until season 2 finale.
god.
Yeah.
That would be cool,
shit.
because Vash brought up everything that I was going to talk about, but I'm just
Yeah.
interested about that white room. Like, we saw this laser, right? Like, can
Yeah.
it penetrate Viltrum's skin? We saw this like purple crystal thing. I'm like, they're scanning it. What significance does this crystal have with anything, right? So I just have like so many questions. Like, they're rebuilding the Immortal again. Does he die again, and then they have to bring it back again? Like,
See,
There's so
and
many
everyone,
questions.
I saw comments on Twitter like this motherfucker's called immortal, but he's died twice in the first season. It's like, yeah, but he's came back
Yeah.
every time.
If
That's
people did
why
not
he's called
see
the
the
immortal.
little-
He's not the immortal because he's been put in a fucking squisher twice. He's called the immortal because he's woken up twice. You know what I mean? 3 times, whatever. You know what I mean? They showed him as, I don't even remember this in the comics. Steve, remind me, but like I don't remember them showing him as Abraham Lincoln in the comic book. Like I'm pretty sure that was a liberty that like Kirkman was like, yo, add this. Like we always do. Like they always do this in fucking comic book. Like remember the fucking opening of the Watchmen film where the comedian was the nigga who assassinated John F. Kennedy? They always do shit like that. You know what I mean? So it's like when I saw fucking Immortal as Abraham Lincoln, I'm like, okay, they didn't put that in the comic book. I bet you Kirkman was like, let's add this for the show. You know what I mean? And it just slaps so hard. It's like, yes, that's what you do with immortal characters.
Yeah, and you remember Immortal was like the new. Well, I don't know if they're gonna add that, so never mind.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're gonna. Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna add that. So I won't say that. But there's like other crazy things. Immortal's got a lot of more. If they do it the right way and not just make him like some gag now where they just kill him just to kill him.
Yeah, you know,
they do it the right way, like that how they did it in the comics. Immortal's got a lot of screen time coming.
Yeah,
he's got a lot of screen time coming.
That's right.
I hope.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to like the duplicate stuff, and I think that we'll see that more in season 2 maybe. But like he's like I remember in what's covered in season 1 of the show from the comic book, you got a little bit more, character work on behalf of the immortal, before his second killing. You know what I mean? So I feel like they flesh his character out a little bit more before Omni-Man kills him again, and that makes that second confrontation a little bit harder. I might be misremembering, but like it's been like almost like 10-15 years since I've read Invincible for real.
Yeah, I'm doing a reread right now. It's so good.
Right. That's why I'm kind of like using you as like my consultant almost, and like what I'm like trying to remember. Do a reread,
bro. It's so good. Especially
I should have fucking done a reread for the fucking season. I knew that I would be talking about it eventually.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, it's like what's gonna happen, so that's what's making it so much better. And then it's like the refresher. Oh, I forgot this shit happened.
Right, exactly. I was surprised at how much I remembered from the comic book run just by watching the show. And I was talking to you guys a little bit about that in pre. Like I was reading this shit like, as it was coming out. You know what I mean? Like in the time that it was like, dropping as a serialization, not as a completed work. You know what I mean? And I feel like most people who are Invincible fans kind of hopped on that like wave like 3 to 5 years ago at most, where like everyone was just reading omnibuses after it ended. You know what I mean? But like I was there like as it was being serialized, you know what I mean? So like my memory on it is so poor compared to everyone that I talk about Invincible with. You know what I mean? I should have done a reread. Looking back on it, but
never too late, brother.
It's never too late.
Rob brings up something in chat, right? And this was something that I thought of after I watched the finale for the second time. So Rob says he heard that Eve was hella powerful, right? And I thought about it. I'm like, Eve has transmutation powers. Why doesn't Cecil get Eve to change like the density of Viltrum like skin to like make it easier to like penetrate his body to kill him? Right.
See,
so
that's the thing. That's the kind problem you run in.
On.
That's the problem you like run into like when you have characters like Eve like in the fold, because like it's the kind of question where in Marvel Comics you're like, whenever any character is having an issue with a threat that's below Franklin Richards,
right?
Why doesn't Franklin Richards just come in and fix it? Whenever you have a threat that's below Jean Grey, why doesn't Jean Grey just come in and fix it? And when you have a publication history as extensive and as deep as Marvel Comics, then you can say, well, another writer in another area of the publication line was writing that character in a specific story arc that had them away from this particular moment. And that's when you rely on your editors to make sure that time lines up properly to where the try-hard comic book readers that know every moment that happens and everything won't come back and go, no, Franklin could have been there because blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So, like, that's why you pay your editors. Anyway, the point that I'm making,
brought that joke back.
The point that I'm making, though, is is that like when it comes down to why Adam Eve wasn't shown as powerful as she was in the comic book in the first season, is I feel like Robert Kirkman kind of like figured it out since the comic book and went, we can't show Eve that tight just yet. Otherwise, people are going to go, why wasn't she a bigger presence in the Omni-Man situation?
Yeah.
So that's like kind of why. Because in the comic book, you see Eve do way more shit before Omni-Man beats Mark's ass.
Which
you know
is
what I mean?
crazy
and
to think
that
about.
made me wonder in the comic book, this bitch has this entire power set that can do all of this, and she was literally just non-existent in this cataclysmic event. And it's like, what were you doing? And you know what I mean? And I think I remember that there was still that like Cecil mandate on the Guardians of the Globe that said, sit tight, don't interfere. Right. I think I remember that in the comic book. But at the same time, it's like, if you're Adam Eve and you know what your power set is and you know the full potential of it better than the audience does at that point in time, why wouldn't you, great power, you know, great responsibility type beat, go, no, you guys stay because you're a fucking robot that's going to get eviscerated in moments. You're Black Samson. You shouldn't even be in the fucking conversation, even though you got your powers back. Like Eve should have been like, all of y'all stay here and I'm going to go because I'm fucking Adam Eve.
But you're right. In the comic, she goes and trains and
I remember.
How strong she is.
Yeah.
So technically,
and I think she's actually not even there when Mark is getting his ass whooped because she's in Africa or whatever. And then he gets his ass whooped, tells Amber, and then him and Amber are an item, and then Eve like invites them to Africa or something like way. Yeah, I think I remember that actually.
Yeah. So
but,
and
like,
while
still,
she's in Africa, she's practicing her powers.
But see, exactly, Kirkman wrote her away from the situation in the comic book.
Right.
That's exactly, you know, like that's what you have to do. You have to make the characters that could justifiably just end the situation busy at the time. And you have to do it in a way to where it feels like a real alibi and not just an excuse that the writer shoehorned in to not have a character that could properly deal with the situation just not be there.
So I wonder why they made that decision to have Eve with Mark, like when they meet up with Omni-Man.
Because they didn't show her power set fully.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they
but
showed her as,
anyone
like,
with
novice.
half a brain that understands her power, it's like, why not just rewrite his DNA
atoms.
and then just kill him?
But
like her powers is broken. Like she knows how to move and control atoms. She literally built a door just to leave her parents'
house.
Yeah, dude,
it's transmutation. She can literally tear down matter and reformat
That's a good point.
So it's like,
that's a good point.
Why have her there, you know?
You could make the argument that she's like, you know, a novice adolescent teenager versus a fucking like 3,000-year-old Viltrumite.
For sure.
You just have the anxiety of like knowing that the experience gap is so drastic, and like the nigga who's like the fucking spawn of this dude is getting his ass kicked. So like there's a lot of things that you can, but they didn't explore any of that insecurity in the show. So you can still make the criticism, but you could explain it away in a lot of headcanon-y ways.
Would she be fast enough to even do it though?
Yeah.
I mean,
that too.
To get what's his name? The Flash character that they have.
Oh yeah, that's a good point too,
Red
Steve.
Rush, right?
Even though she's cold in all of these ways in regard to like matter manipulation and like transmutation, you could still just say Nolan is way too fast for her.
Yeah,
and
which would make sense.
She can't even put up a transmutative block against something that he's trying to do because he's just Mach 7 and she's only Mach 3 or whatever, you know, explanation you want to say. Yeah, that feels good too.
So anything other than she can win, no.
Yeah, you can always just bring it back to experience versus experience, because like as tight as she is, she's still a 16, 17-year-old girl who is essentially a Jean Grey equivalent in this verse. And one of Jean Grey's biggest character flaws is that she has all of this power and no experience to do anything with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you have to put those mental limiters that Xavier established and things that keep that ultimate force away from her, you know, intrinsic manipulation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great point, man. I mean, I feel like this was a great review, guys. Like, I just want to get like your final thoughts on the finale and season 1 as a whole, and then we'll wrap for the night.
And plus to add, for Scuba and Nox, what do you expect to see season 2 in a non-spoilery way?
I can't say anything about season 2 or 3 without spoiling anything.
Yeah, I was
so
just
go
gonna
ahead,
say
Scuba.
like
I can only say one name: Angstorm Levy.
Yeah,
That's the
nigga.
only person that you
I'll
should
say
look
one name
for.
too. I'll say one name too.
What?
Conquest. I'm not even gonna give I'm not even gonna give context. But Conquest. You feel me?
Those two names. Just remember those two names, and you'll be like, all right.
If
Well,
only,
JB, you're gonna read it, so
oh yeah.
if only James won't read. Like I want to read, but I just love theorizing and just making these assumptions and just going fun. Like I just love it, but since like half of my co-hosts is literally gonna read it, and I'm like, shit. So I guess I'm the only one that's gonna like just make theories and be wrong or right.
Yeah,
Y'all are
sorry.
gonna
I
have
can't
a
wait.
lot of fun. See, like that's what's like really cool to me, like as someone who considers themselves like an analyst. Like when like obviously, you know, like when it comes to the weekly Shonen Jump reviews we do those like right after the chapters come out, and there's not a whole lot of time to like sit and speculate on things. It's way different. But like when you are someone who is experiencing a 20-year-old story for the first time in 2021, sure, you're gonna miss on a lot of your speculation because you don't have that week-to-week or month-to-month wait to sit and let your theories like, you know, manifest and stew and chill for a little bit and have people really get attached to the idea. When you're someone who's jumping into Invincible in 2021, you're gonna have a lot of fucking ideas and theories about how things are gonna go, but you're gonna run into those try-hard Twitter niggas that are like, no, that's wrong because I read the comic book. But like me myself, it's like, yeah, I read the comic book, and yeah, you're wrong, but I love your mind right now. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of enthusiasm that I like give to people, even when I know the true future of the story. You know what I mean? Because I appreciate that critically thinking, hyper analytical, you know what I mean, like outlook that a lot of people that we do this with share. Everyone here is you know, on this panel is people that I consider in that echelon, you know what I mean? So Vash and JB, throw your fucking Invincible predictions out, and like whatever the fuck like toxic Twitter wants to say, you got a shooter right here. You know what I'm saying? That it's gonna fucking be like, hey, I'm not gonna be like you were wrong. If you're wrong, I'm gonna be like, nigga, that's tight anyway. You know what I mean? So it's like
I sit in the
for
comments
anybody
every
out there,
Friday.
like. Yeah,
I sit in the comments every Friday, and I'm like, yo, this shit is so much fun watching them come up
exactly.
with
Like it's
entertaining.
You know I mean? Like it's cool.
It's entertaining not knowing.
Like so what if you're wrong, dude? Like just fucking throw the takes out anyway, dude.
It's fun
tight,
because
it's fun. Yeah.
To add to one access, like I read almost every weekly Shonen Jump manga, and like I'm not a great or perfect analytics like Knox or his team, but
perfect is a little too crazy.
All right, I'm not as
Thank you,
good, as great as them,
yeah.
but I do consider myself close to them. But at the same time, to not actually read a comic book and not know any knowledge about Invincible and just throw theories from my past experience of any medium, it's just hella fun. And with James as well, sadly I'm gonna lose that, but you know it's been fun. I can't wait for season 2. It's been you know, I can't wait for season 2. Whenever it comes out, I'm happy Amazon knows what they have and announcing to not like Villain Saga, because I don't know what the fuck they're doing with that. But like that's very funny.
Whoa.
You know, I just got
I don't know what's going on with that either. I haven't been looking into it either. If there's negatives about it, then I don't want to hear.
They haven't announced anything for that, and they know the popularity. But I'm glad they know what they have with Invincible. I'm glad they know about the popularity. I'm glad they announced 2 seasons back to back. Can't wait to know when it will be. Knox threw out that theory, say, hey, who knows? It could be at the end of the year. Hey, if it's at the end of the year, give the announcement, because I will tell James, like, hey, can you wait like 4 more months, maybe?
Nope.
You're like, nope.
Today.
But overall, I had a great time season 1. Would I read it? That's a big maybe. Would I just be the only one that panel and James would be like, great theory.
Just like Attack on Titan.
Yeah. He probably would.
Last thing I want to say before we wrap up. Let Invincible for people out there who are anime only or like manga only, and like Invincible is like your first taste of like what American storytelling can really do, because it had the proper medium and the right creative team to actually present it to you in a way that's consumable or easily consumable for you as an anime, you know, viewer. I understand that anime and Eastern animation animates on a higher, you know, degree than Western does by and large. So when you go to a show like, you know, Invincible and you watch the first 20 minutes and you don't see, you know, as potent of illustration as you do in the first 20 minutes of an anime. Stick with it, dude. And as far as like comic books go, like you see what Invincible is doing with these adaptations. Like, don't be that guy that needs to wait for an amazing adaptation of a comic book story to fucking read it. If you get an amazing recommendation, something that feels really good from someone who does this shit, fucking take them up on that, because it's the most frustrating thing ever. How I've been trying to tell a lot of my friends to read Invincible for like 5 years, and they're like, I don't like Western comic books. And then the fucking show drops and they catch up to the fucking comic book and finish it in like 3 days. It's like, dude, do your fucking recommendation friends a favor and just fucking listen to their recommendations before the show is announced.
Ray told us a year to read it before we watch it. Ray kept us like, yo, you guys should read it. And me just like, we're gonna wait. And then now James is like, yo, I want to read it. You know,
yeah, because I mean, we were so close. Like, I wanted to get like a glimpse of what the series
absolutely
was like.
Now, if you heard of Invincible like after it was announced, and you're like, I'm gonna wait for the show, like that's whatever. You know what I mean? But like, if you were someone who was recommended Invincible like 5 years ago, and you were like, go fuck yourself, bro, and then the fucking show comes out, and you're like, this is peak fiction, you should feel bad about that. Personally, I feel like you should feel bad about that. Internally.
Any other final thoughts?
That's it for me.
Steve?
I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Keep watching. JB, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the read.
Yes, dude.
Please message me every time you fucking be like, whoa, what the fuck?
Because I will.
Yeah, because there's going to be some early moments where you're like, oh, shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and don't read Chapter 0, because Chapter 0 is like, straight up spoilers out. On my reread, I was reading Chapter 0 and I was like, yo, wait a minute. I was like, so don't do that. But other than that, man, they're doing a great job of adapting this. And I'm glad y'all guys had me on for this finale, man.
Dude, thanks for inviting me back for this. I'm sorry I couldn't make it for Falcon and Winter Soldier. I definitely wanted to be there for that, but like, this is the one where I was like,
you can't miss this.
Never in a million years. Like, this is incredible, and this is an amazing conversation. This is why I love coming to things like this with you guys.
Yeah, man, this was a lot of fun. It's always an honor to have you guys on the show, because this is what I love doing, man. Like, I just want to talk about comics and comic book shows with my friends, man. Like, this is the coolest shit that I get to do. Like, I do my day job, and then I get to do this right after. Right?
Yes.
Like, we've been talking for 3 hours and 15 minutes. I'm having the time of my life right
now.
No
way.
So I appreciate you guys. Yeah, no bullshit.
Mortal Kombat was.
I didn't even realize how much time passed.
Mortal Kombat was an hour and a change.
We talked about Mortal Kombat. I forgot about that. What the fuck?
All right, so Steve, where can the people find you online, man?
If you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, it's ScubaSteve1428. Follow my podcast page, the Blerd My Pod, and we talk about anime, comics, video games, TV series, movies, things like that as well.
And merch, socks.
And, buy some socks.
Get that merch.
Because everybody likes to make fun of me for sleeping in socks. Buy some socks to sleep in.
Oh, you sleep in socks, but you've taken that and turned it into a line. Oh, now these are socks you're supposed to sleep in. I like how you flip that.
Yeah,
so
it's not the same thing with pancake and cheese, Vash. It's not the same thing.
So that was he was about to do? He was about to say, now, Knox, if you like the sleeping with socks, you'll love these cheese and pancakes, brother.
So I've been trying to tell the team for the past like 2-3 months with this idea, since Steve made his socks merch. I'm saying, hey, since we talk shit about my cheese on pancakes idea, how about we try to sell it as a merch? Sure. Every time they're all never say no. I'm like, all right,
that's what everyone says until you go to Shark Tank. I remember that episode of Shark Tank where Buddy pulled up and was like, hey, you know how good the milk tastes after you finish your cereal? Well, here's cereal milk in a carton. And I was like, bruh. And everybody on the panel was like shook. They were like, son, this is brilliant. So it's the same. It's the same.
Dogs?
You
see?
I feel like. Yeah. But I'm
it's
still
working.
not gonna eat it though.
I'm still not gonna eat it.
What do you buy in merch though? What do you buy in merch?
Cheese and pancake merch? I don't know. Depends on depends on the following you get. I'm a hype, I'm a bandwagoner. You know what I'm saying? I need there to be a little bit of noise made. You know what I'm saying?
I'll buy it because it's you.
I'll talk to you after.
Yeah,
You
for
can
sure.
design and set
Obviously,
everything.
you know I'm a support just because you're my boy. You know what I'm saying? But
Other than
I'll
that.
let people see me buying it. I won't let people see me eating cheesy pancakes.
Yeah, right.
It would just be on my in my closet, just there. This is my Vash shirt.
Knox, where can the people find you online?
Yeah, Project Manga, everything, man. YouTube Project Manga, Twitch Project Manga, Spotify, Apple Project Manga. We review Weekly Shonen Jump on our main show. We got a bunch of different other shows, though. It's me and 3 other idiots. They're on break right now. But me and the other guy, we be putting it down every week. Holler at us on YouTube or wherever you normally listen to your podcasts, okay?
Yeah, Vash.
You can find me at Legendary Vash everywhere on Twitter and IG, on social media where you can find me. I do a lot of production work as my day job as a freelancer, and my other day job is Anime Daily work, where I do an Anime Daily weekly podcast with James, Ray, and Sam, and the Shonen Ronin podcast that became similar to what Project Manga does, but we had less time to do so. Now we turn it into Shonen Ronin.
I love that name, by the way, dude. I just want to say Shonen Ronins is like an incredible name for a show like that. I just want to say that.
I think you appreciate that. Came up with me and Sam's idea, and it's with My Hero Black Clover. And this coming Sunday, since there's no new chapters, we're covering Kaiju number 8 and Sakamoto Days 2. For those that need to know about this series, we are taking that week to talk about series that you guys should be reading. So definitely check that out on this Sunday coming afternoon.
Yeah, you guys can find me all over social media at JB Exclusive, and of course at C4 Spoilers. If you like this video, share it with your friends. Like, come back every single Friday where we have lit content just like this, have amazing guests just like Knox and Steve every single week. So come back. For the month of May, we are going to be talking all of the Infinity Saga. We're going to be talking Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and WandaVision, and how that fits into the greater MCU and what's to come after that. So make sure you guys stay tuned for all of that content. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment on the video if you had a great time, and we will see you guys on the next one.